And welcome to the talk show, Let the Truth Be Told. I'm your host, Pastor David. And folks, we got a great show today. We're going to talk more about Ilham Omar and her situation. We're going to throw Barack Obama in there. But on the second half of the show, we're going to talk about what's happening in the Black community versus then when Malcolm X was saying the same thing that I've been saying for over these years, talking about how Black people will fall for the tricks of the liberal. So if you ain't got nothing to do, call your friends and let them know you're listening to Let the Truth Be Told Radio. I'm your host, Pastor David. Y'all come on. And welcome to the talk show, Let the Truth Be Told. I'm your host, Pastor David. And first, let me give all praises to Yahuwah, that's God, and Yahusha, that's Christ in Hebrew. Well, folks, it is a shame what's happening in our country today. We're going to do two things. We're going to talk about what Malcolm said back in the day, and we're going to talk about Ilham Omar. How is it that you could come into our country and still keep your terrorist radical attitude, become part of the Democratic Party, and steal millions, I would say billions of dollars of taxpayer money? Now, this thing seems to keep on dragging on and on. You know, they talk about her for a minute. She go hide. She's been lying about her finances. She lied about how she got here when she was 12 years old. She been married to 3 men. And yet all of it was done illegally. And you would think to the American people and patriots across this country, when we elected officials to go to the White House for us, it was about the American people. It has not been about other countries. It is about making sure the quality of life of the American citizens, who are the taxpayers, are ensured that you are doing the job to make this country great. But we can see that that's not happening during the leadership of people like Barack Obama and Joe Biden. They have caused this country to become a shithole. And we, the people of the United States, have been put at the back of the bus on our own money with our own leaders. So today we got a double special feature that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk more about Ilham Omar and her theft. We're going to hit Barack Obama upside his head for what he did. And then we're going to go take a blast in the past and listen to what Malcolm X said that would happen to the Black community. And let me get my guest in here. What's up, Randy?
Hey, how y'all doing?
Well, Dre at down there. I got one more to get in here. What's up, Dre?
I'm doing all right. How you doing?
Man, good. Guys, first, I want to get your thoughts on this. Ilham Omar has went into hiding now that she stole all of this money. She made the American ass out of the American people and still talking like she's running something. She telling us as Americans, y'all can just kiss my ass. I took y'all money. I gave it to terrorists, and we destroyed Minnesota just like they've done all the other blue states. So to the American people and patriots across this country, I think it's high time that we stand with President Trump and deal with these issues so that we can get our country back on track. Lucretia, what's your thoughts? You up first.
Well, from what J.D. Vance just came out and said like 2 days ago, they're already starting to dig into her sham of a marriage, her marriage to her brother. They're not going to let it go. So let her continue on saying whatever she needs to say. They're going to denaturalize her anyway. It's not her, Ellison, and Tim Walz are not going to get away with everything they did to Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Andre?
Yeah, and it's good to hear her actually say it. Because at the end of the day, we can make all these assumptions about who people are, but as it's been said before, if someone tells you who they are, believe them. Now the whole world knows. Now she's going to be investigated. So everybody hold on to your seats, because this denaturalization is going to be a very, very bumpy roller coaster ride.
Mr. Binky?
Well, as usual, action speaks louder than words. There's been a whole lot of talk about a whole lot of people doing a whole lot of wrong, and let's use Dr. Fauci for one. His statute of limitation of 5 years just ran out of his prosecution, I'm assuming. All this Pam Bondi, when she was in there, all the claims that she was going after people, she got dismissed from her job, or however that came about. I want to see prosecution. I want to see people get held accountable. But so far, I've seen none of it happening. So I'm reserving any of my thoughts until I start seeing action taken.
Randy?
I agree. Here. I say, they whoever, J.D. Vance, the Department of Justice, the CIA, the Avengers? I don't care whoever it decides that they're going to go after these people. They should start from the bottom up. Not cut it off at the head. Not start with Ilham Omar. Start from the bottom up. That way, you get the canaries singing along the way. And then that would lead to other people getting indicted and arrested and deported and denaturalized and all that good stuff. I say you start from the bottom up and get to these people like that. Because Ilham Omar, what she's doing is she's saying that you're not going to be able to touch me, and I don't care what you say or what you try to do. Everybody else,
whistleblower that just came out last week about Ilham Omar dropped the receipts and already gave it to J.D. Vance. I know we got to say allegedly, just because we are the United States and we do have a court of law where they presume innocent until proven guilty. But there's so much. You got to remember all of these people, over 200 people being indicted just in Minnesota alone. All of them have pointed the finger at Ilham, and they have been charged. They have already been convicted, and that is how we're finding out more and more and more of this stuff. So they are going for the low-hanging fruit in order to grab her with, intensity. And when the president of the United States and J.D. Vance keep calling out your name, they ain't going to Betty by anytime soon. This girl in trouble. She should have shut her off.
Guys, I'm going to play this clip, and I'm so glad you led us in that, Lucretia, because I did some research, and y'all check this out.
Committee to investigate far-left Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. It concerned a controversial change to her financial disclosures that dramatically cut her family's reported wealth. Mike Tobin has more on this. What you find out, Mike? Hello.
Well, Bill, Minnesota Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar has been referred to the U.S. House Ethics Committee to look into the matter of her personal finances. We've talked about this before. Financial disclosures show that the estate of the Minnesota Congresswoman jumped from almost nothing to $30 million while in office. Then, amid all the scrutiny over her personal finances, Omar and her husband updated their financial disclosure to state that their estate was worth less than $100,000. The Congresswoman blamed the $29 million discrepancy on an accounting mistake that did not subtract the liabilities from her husband's business. Republican Minnesota State Representative Christian Robbins thinks Minnesota voters deserve more answers.
Fathomable that she would have two such disparate forms from her financial disclosures. One saying she's worth up to $30 million, the other one saying she's worth less than $100,000. The math just doesn't work, and they need to get to the bottom of it.
Now, Omar sponsored the 2020 Meals Act, which the Minnesota House Fraud Prevention and Oversight Committee had been investigating this legislative session. The Republican Majority Committee determined that the Meals Act removed the guardrails on a program called Feeding Our Future, intended to feed poor children during the pandemic. Prosecutors now say that program was defrauded to the tune of $250 million. Representative Omar did not cooperate with the committee, and Republicans lacked the votes to force her to cooperate. Now, Amy Bach, the woman convicted as the ringleader in the Feeding Our Future scandal, told the New York Post she struggles to believe Omar would not have known about the massive fraud enabled by the Meals Act.
Okay.
Bill?
All right.
Okay, guys, your thoughts on that, Randy? You up first.
It's like I said, you start from the bottom and you work your way up, and to that point, she changing your financial. So, like I said, I ran for Congress, and when you're doing your financial disclosures, even as a candidate, as a candidate or elected member, you have your quarterly filings. It's very hard, and you got if you're not doing it yourself, you ask somebody that's called a compliance officer to do it for you. It's very hard to sit there and misconstrue numbers like that, because you got to provide receipts with all that stuff, and it's a very intricate system. So yeah, she's lying, and she needs to go to jail.
Trey, your thoughts?
Period.
Yeah, and Randy, when you were running for Congress, I'm sure you probably would have had like someone advising you, like an accountant. Is that safe to assume? Then
yes,
I'm even more appalled that the accountant didn't catch it. So it's just a lie. She's trying to waste everybody's time and buy herself some more time and make this about Donald Trump and JD Vance, but it's not going to work because the American people are not fooled, and the more she talks, the more she makes herself sound stupid, and less and less people are believing what she's saying.
Yeah.
Lucretia?
There's only one person everybody needs to start talking about, and that's Nick Shirley. Because if it wasn't for Nick Shirley,
yes,
up there and doing the investigative journalism and figuring out about the Leering Center, and then cross-referencing that and going to California to her winery that, quote unquote, her husband owned, but now all of a sudden it has disappeared. There's only one little young man that need to get the kudos and the flowers, and his name is Nick Shirley.
Mr. Binky.
Yeah, now I think most of this fraud's been brought up because wasn't it under COVID?
Yes.
So I see this Minnesota stuff, this California stuff, all this PPE money or whatever they called out. All this stuff is hundreds of billions of dollars now, and that's just backs up what I've said or we've said. The more government decides they're going to get involved, the more fraud they get created. They're coming up with all these programs, and then people like Omar abuse it. Walls, Newscomb, all them guys. They created this COVID funding, and there's all the abuse that was done with it. That tells you that you don't need government to be doing all this to start with.
Right. And Mr. Binky, I live in Georgia. There's been 4 Democrats that has been convicted of their hands in the cookie jars. So when people say nothing is happening, where you looking at? Because I'm seeing it all over the place. And these was 4 Black Democrats inside of the state of Georgia that was scamming and frauding the PPP. So when I was a part of the PPP, Small Business Administration, and being on all those conference calls, I said, listen, don't go over there and start stealing. Do not fraud these people, because the federal government is not going to play with you. And now, even though it's not going as fast as we would love it to go, people are getting arrested, they are getting convicted, and they are being set down from their positions. But Ilhan Omar, after everything we're finding out about her, Ross, and Ellison, they need to do federal time. I don't want her to just easily skip away back to Somalia. Her and all of them up there, they really do need to go to jail.
And guys, when you start talking about the PPP, when it first happened, and I'm going to talk from a Black point of view. Black people that never had businesses created businesses so they could get some of that money. And he was some very influential people here in Cook County, in the Chicago area. A lot of the politicians, a lot of the boule people, educated fools who call themselves black, they was getting this money. And so I kept saying to a lot of folks, and on my show back then, I was saying, hey, you know what? If you get this money and you don't have a business and you can't justify the receipts, you're going to be in trouble. And guys was telling me, oh, no, Pastor, man, you could do it too. You can go ahead on and start a business. I'm like, I've been in business for over 20, almost 30 years now. I wouldn't even apply for it because I knew the ramifications that it could cause if you didn't use that money right and came up with the correct receipts. And so just like you said, Lucretia, it's happening now. It has been happening. And it's been so many black people who got millions of dollars out of this lie, and now they're being held accountable. They're going to prison behind of it, and they're crying foul. But it was all because the Democrats created this and allowed them to do that. Instead of having a brain of your own, you allow people to trick you. No, I ain't going to even say trick you. You wanted that money. You took that money illegally, and now you got to pay the piper. I want to play this clip, guys, about the person that was behind the fraud in Minnesota.
Minnesota fraud scheme tied to the nonprofit organization Feeding Our Future reveals during a jailhouse interview that she struggles to believe that Ilhan Omar wouldn't have known about it. Omar's name appeared at least 6 times in this fraud case, according to federal court documents. Okay, this story, I think it was the New York Post that had it. I am like kind of just, I wish Jason was here because he always brings this woman up. But the stuff she said was so alarming, Daniel. First of all, she had 6 email exchanges with Omar, okay? She mentions that in, I think, one of her quotes, she says that there's like 80 to 90 people that have been charged. She's the only white one. She also noted that in a 2021, card, right? Well, in a 2021, and she's facing like 100 years. This is pretty serious. In a 2021 email, she flagged fraud. Some restaurant that was allegedly, Terry will like this, 21,000 meals a day, was making 21,000 meals a day. She flagged it, and she was told, I guess, in response that they don't handle fraud.
Sounds like Jose and Trace, you know, when he's feeding kids abroad during war, they crank out those meals.
But if you're flagging fraud and then you end up being, you know, charged in this fraud scheme, isn't that part of the problem? Wouldn't that be part of her defense? Like showing the emails where she's been alerting some people to like, how is a restaurant making 21,000 meals a day? Yeah, just because you're like alerting fraud doesn't mean that you may not be, that you're not also part of the fraud. And so, you know, that might have been cover that she was doing. But I think that this is very troubling for Ilhan Omar about to try to address this issue. She hasn't, you know, she doesn't want to testify about this. And so a lot of people think that, you know, she's being pretty evasive here. I do think that Republicans have to they have a balancing act that they can't make this entire midterm election on fraud, but as a base turnout scheme, I think it does work. I know Terry and Matt, you guys are both dads of a lot of kids, so might make a lot of meals in your house, but 21,000 a day? I mean, like, how crazy is that? How does that not like jump off the page that there's fraud going on here?
You know, the sad thing is, I'm afraid it's the tip of the iceberg for the fraud that goes on with the trillions of dollars we spend on our government. So a little bit of oversight would go a long ways. But the good news for the Democrats, they can always just change the rules.
Information. All right, Lucretia, you up.
I don't want the rules to continue changing because you got caught. I want the rules of the law and the order and our constitutional foundation that makes us a nation. I want them perp walk. Because if it was Pookie or Ray Ray flipping a brick and you couldn't figure out how in the world they couldn't, how did you come up with $30 million within a 2-year span? That should have every IRS busting down your door. So if they do it to us and they do it to, you know, the low hanging fruit, if the people that set it in motion and you know that there's smoke out there about these people, then do the justification and lock them up, or at least bring it in front of a grand jury.
Binky?
I'm still trying to add up how you make 21,000 meals in one day. You know, you'd have to have 100 people or more. You'd have to have a factory to make 21,000 meals a day. So, I mean, how preposterous does it have to get before somebody does get held accountable?
Dre?
Well, let's go back to your 21,000 meals comment. the reason that she mentioned it, because she flagged it. She was like, this is 21,000 meals. How can somebody make 21,000 meals? And at the end of the day, she's like, okay, there's corruption and then there's greed. So apparently she's just like, this is a problem. I need to go talk to these people because I know that all their corruption's going on, but you guys are going to get us all caught. And that's why she mentioned it. So it's
Randy?
a greed factor.
Yeah, I agree with you, Andre, on that one, because although they all are part of the, some kind of corruption, some kind of scheme going on, it's like, okay, you're going way overboard now. Hold on, I gotta put a stop on that one. So, but yeah, scale it back a little bit, scale it back. Keep doing what you're doing, but fix these numbers. Make it 5,000. Okay, we can go with that. And that's the problem with government. And to Lucretia's point, you're absolutely right. The everyday average citizen, we do something wrong, we get our doors kicked in. These yahoos sitting in Congress and sitting in these government positions, it's turn a blind eye, business as usual. And that does need to stop. And it's up to the American people to put a stop to it. We can't keep relying on government to do something that government is doing. And so that's the problem that we have as a society is we're relying on the culprit to stop the culpracy. So it doesn't make any sense. So that's where I'm at with that.
All of you are so correct. But think about this. She helped create some of the bills and legislation to be able to get all of this stuff approved.
Exactly.
Tim Walz, Ellison, and all of them are in collusion cohorts together to make this happen. There should have been warnings that was she only alerted it because she knew it wasn't going to go anywhere just in case something like this would happen. But I think they got so greedy and the money started coming in because they started creating all sorts of old programs, the Leering Center. They started creating programs for drug abuse people to come back into society. I mean, they went in so far to create different programs to get this money that now it's just out in the open. And I think that she's going to go to prison, and she should go to prison because this was all done under her leadership and she removed the guardrails. Randy?
No, she's not going to go to prison. She's going to get pardoned, or there's going to be some kind of exculpatory evidence that comes up and says, oh, nope, she's good. It was admissible evidence because it was acquired improperly, and her Fourth Amendment right was violated. So she's going to get off. I mark my words, folks. These people don't go to jail. We know this.
But this is what J.D. Vance had to say.
Ask you about the anti-fraud task force. You previously mentioned that Ilhan Omar seemed to have committed immigration fraud. Do you anticipate an indictment against her, an indictment related to that situation?
Yeah, so Reagan, I don't want to prejudge an investigation. I mean, you read the things about Ilhan Omar and about, who she married and whether she didn't marry this person or that person. It certainly seems like something fishy is there, but everybody's entitled to equal justice under the laws. So we're going to investigate it. We're going to take a look at it. If we think that there's a crime, we're going to prosecute that crime. And that's something the Department of Justice is looking at right now.
Mr.
Go ahead.
Based on what you've seen during your work on this anti-fraud task force, do you believe anything should change about our immigration or refugee policies to stop fraud in the United States?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, one thing I'd say is that the biggest immigration fraud that existed under the Biden administration, it's not just that they let a flood of people across the southern border. That was obviously a very major problem and something I'm proud of the president for stopping. But it's also that they allowed the asylum and refugee claimant process to become totally fraudulent. And so here's what would happen, right? You would take a person who in normal cases would just be a traditional economic immigrant. Whether you let them into the country or not, they're trying to come because they want a better job, okay? They would come into the country and say that they were fleeing persecution, and they would say that they were an asylum claimant. And then effectively what the Biden administration would do is say, okay, you're an asylee, go into the interior of the country, here's a work permit, maybe come back in 10 or 12 years for your hearing on whether you actually have a legitimate asylum claim. So what did that mean? That meant that person was just completely given amnesty and released into the interior of the country. Well, what if that person was a criminal? What if that person actually had a violent history? We didn't do any of the work necessary to ensure that the people coming into our country claiming to be asylum claimants actually had anything legitimate or anything good in their background. So that is a serious problem. It is something that we have fixed in the Trump administration, but fundamentally that loophole, you're going to see sometime in the future, somebody is going to try to exploit that loophole. And it's one of the things that we're very focused on in the fraud task force is making sure that the people who exploited that loophole are actually prosecuted for it, assuming they committed a crime.
Dre, you up first.
Absolutely. I am 100% with the vice president. And I think this is another example of greed because we have to go back to the motivation. Why did they decide to let so many people come in so quickly? Why did they make the promise out there in the first place? Come to the United States. A lot of them said that they were invited by the Biden administration. They were coming in with shirts that said Biden let us in. So
Yep.
somebody decided, man, if we let all these people in, all my business cronies that want all this cheap labor are going to, line my pockets up. They weren't checking anything. They put American lives in danger. We have to put an end to this fraud, and I hope that he's serious about prosecuting the people that may have obstructed the law.
Lucretia?
I'm just rolling my eyes because this goes further back than that. And stop saying Biden. Obama was the one that gave us the refugee resettlement program. I stood up and ran for office because I realized what they was actually truly doing to America. So it's called vetting. It's not checking into someone. No, the technical term is vetting these people before you allow them to come across our border. Obama did not do that with the refugee resettlement program. And like I said, that's one of the things that really got me to stand up and run for office because it was a tragedy that the fraud that was happening just here in Cartersville, Georgia, Marietta, Georgia, Stone Mountain, Georgia. And so they've been giving these people money from day one, housing, visas and everything else. So when the president, I respect him dearly, but you can't just put this on Biden back. Yes, Biden opened up the border and there was over 20 million people to run in, but these people was already here. A lot of them was. So if we're going to keep saying Biden, you got to go back to Obama because that's when it really, really started.
Mr. Binky?
Right. I got one more point because as bad as that refugee program was, it was the interpretation of asylum that actually opened up the floodgates.
I was just going to touch on that.
Yeah, see that's the problem that I heard from JD Vance was fraud and loopholes. And the fraud and loopholes that we're talking about are right there in government. So, I mean, as it was already said from Randy, is, you can't have the criminal take care of the criminals. And as far as I'm concerned, when you give an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution and you find a loophole or you allow the fraud, you're just much as the problem as the problem. And it's up to us people. It's up to us to start making sure this stuff gets done. We can't sit back and listen to these politicians that are screaming fraud and loopholes and dishonesty and all this to fix their own problem. We've got to fix it.
Randy?
Exactly. I totally agree, Mr. Binky. And, I would say the definition of asylum as it once was, prior to Obama, was you go to the country that if you're escaping one country, you go to the nearest country that is most friendly. And that doesn't mean you skip over 5 countries along the way to come to a country of choice. And that's the problem with the asylum program of the United States is that we've gotten away from that definition. You go to Europe and you say, "Oh, I'm fleeing France because I'm afraid for my life." They're gonna say, "Okay, go to Germany next door. You're good over there. Don't worry about it." Or go down to Italy. They'll go to one of the border countries, from which you were trying to escape from, because at the end of the day, not all the countries are the same. So you should be fine over there. That's how it should be. You can't tell me that you're fleeing asylum from Africa and you get on a plane, a boat, a train, and you wind up in the United States saying I'm here on as an asylee. No, guy, you're gonna go down to Tobago or over, somewhere else, South Africa, and call it a day. That's the problem with this with our program, is that we're not enforcing our own laws, and we're reinterpreting what definitions actually should mean. So
the loopholes.
Yeah, exactly, the loopholes. So
And
until
guys,
we address that, we're not gonna fix the problem.
and guys, I want to follow up on something Lucretia said, man. This did start under Barack Obama.
Mm-hmm.
Barack Obama, to me, was the worst president of all times. But he deceived black people. He knew that if he was going to pull this off, he had to get black people on board with him to get him in office. And that's what he did. I mean, he used black people like a piece of toilet paper.
Emotional
He
support animal.
Yep. And he just wiped us up through his butt. And he knew that he was going to do this. And he kept preparing other people to come in over us. It was Barack Obama, like the creature said, that opened the borders first and allowed for these people to get in here and get set up. So Joe Biden basically just opened the door and allowed for the rest of the gang to come in after they was already in place. And so it is him. It's him that really, really started the downfall of America. And not only that, Barack Obama was the person that was responsible for really killing any fire that the black community had left after the civil rights movement came. Black people were still looking for that black Jesus to come in. And Obama came in as he was a true black man and that he had the black community best interest in hand. But he was no more than a liar, a thief, and a grifter. And he brought homosexuality to this country and tried to force all other countries to accept that type of lifestyle because he knew that him and Big Mike was going to deceive black people and deceive this country. Until you American people out there, especially black Americans, now that you see the deception that Obama did, he should be the last person in the world that we would be listening to. But black people still running around here hanging on to the remnants of Barack Obama. And I have to be honest with you, Barack Obama was a piece of you know what, okay? And he didn't care about black people and black other leaders. See, I've been doing some things, and I'm going to let Binky say what he got to say before we get ready for the second half. Let me get to saying, Binky, as a pastor, and growing up in the civil rights era, I had a chance to see Adam Clayton Powell, who was a pastor. I had the chance to see Dr. King, who was self-serving and not really have the black community at their best interest. I had a chance to see Malcolm X, who saw all of this tyranny. And Malcolm X really loved black people. He forsaken the Nation of Islam and found out that they was just like the Boule crowd that's in power right now and stood against it because they didn't care about black people. They cared about doing what they wanted to do and trying to pull people into these Nation of Islam for money. Because the Nation of Islam took over your capital once you became a member. They said they stripped you of your slave name and gave you another name. And then the guy, Muhammad, the little short guy that had the 15 wives and all of that, he was the one who was the deceiver. And a lot of black people, eyes were open once Malcolm left and started his own thing. And that's one of the reasons why he was assassinated. Binky?
Well, I wanted to, I agree that Obama really stepped up this illegal immigration stuff. But I want to go all the way back to 86. Reagan had the Immigration Nationality Act of 86. He gave 3 million illegals amnesty. And then it was said after that, no more amnesty. You're going to enforce this act. Well, I want to remind everybody what happened in 1989 with Bush Sr.
Ooh.
Agenda 21 in Buenos Aires. And what's in Agenda 21? Globalization, open borders, This started right after Ronald Reagan's 86 Immigration Act. So yes, Obama helped accelerate this, but this was progressively coming from Republicans, from Bush, Clinton, George Bush. This was just slowly deteriorating into this globalization of Agenda 21.
And guys, you're so correct, man. But I wanna go ahead, Andre. You want to respond to that?
Up on what Steve's saying is Steve is right. Like we can single out presidents for what they decide to do with executive orders dealing with the border crisis. So like in the Bush 1, Bush 2, Obama, uh, Trump 1.0, Trump 2.0, we've all had issues with immigration in all those different administrations. But our problem is we haven't had a long-term legislative solution. We had one in 1924 that for 41 years we had level immigration. We had less than 200,000 people coming into the country every year. But in 1965, they decided that they wanted to get rid of that. They brought in the Hart-Celler Act, and we've been growing ever since then. What we've seen in the Biden administration, if we look at the chart, the growth during that time is astronomical, and it is like 10 times more than any other period that we've ever seen in the history of us tracking it.
Guys, I got a clip I want to play because, now that Obama has been caught up with the whole Russiagate thing, he's now running around the country. And this is why I say, for me, how is the Black community benefiting from all of this? What is going to happen? Are we going to be able to regain our communities back? Are we going to be able to create economic wealth in the Black community? These are the things that I'm concerned with. But let me play this clip, guys, and we'll respond to that.
Obama's caught in the press circles. That's the focus of tonight's angle.
Do you believe that any of this new information implicates former President Obama in criminal behavior?
We have referred and will continue to refer all of these documents to the Department of Justice and the FBI to investigate the criminal implications of this.
For even former President Obama?
Correct. The evidence that we have found and that we have released directly point to President Obama leading the manufacturing of this intelligence assessment. There are multiple pieces of evidence and intelligence that confirm that fact. Her presentation was measured and methodical. And today, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, appearing in the White House briefing room, explained what led to this criminal referral regarding Obama's involvement in the Russia hoax. DNI Clapper's assistant sent an email to the intelligence community with the subject line, POTUS tasking on Russia election meddling, tasking ODNI leaders to create a new assessment per the president's request. The House Intelligence Committee oversight report that we released today reveals that, quote, unlike routine intelligence community analysis, the intelligence community assessment was a high-profile product ordered by the president, President Obama. And that, of course, begs the question, will anyone be held accountable? Now, recall Obama's reaction yesterday. He brushed off Trump's allegations of treason by claiming that everyone, including Marco Rubio, then on the Senate Intel Committee, believed Russia had tried to influence the election. Director Gabbard addressed this as well. I'm not asking you to take my word for it. I'm asking you and the media to conduct honest journalism and the American people to see for yourself in the documents that we've released now, close to 200 pages, that point in multiple references, multiple examples, to include comments that have been made by senior intelligence professionals who are some still working within these agencies today that confirm the conclusions that we have drawn, that President Obama directed an intelligence community assessment to be created to further this contrived false narrative that ultimately led to a years-long coup to try to undermine President Trump's presidency. So the point being, the alleged crime here was not saying that Russia wanted to influence the election. It was directing a new intel assessment based on the phony dossier in order to hobble the Trump presidency from day one. Went on for years, really.
leaving many Americans in the 2020 election cycle to believe that Putin essentially put Trump in office. So if you're voting to re-elect Trump, you were voting for Putin. And that, basically Trump is just a Russian stooge. And Obama will, of course, dispute all of this. He's going to say he was just trying to get at the truth and that Trump and his supporters are trying to deflect from Epstein with a new conspiracy. And the press, of course, is already helping with that.
Lucretia, go ahead.
I cannot roll my eyes enough. It doesn't take anybody. You don't need a PhD to figure this out. So from day one, you had Russia, Israel. It's old. I'm about sick of it. If you've been paying attention long enough, you should know that Obama was behind majority of all of that stuff. And so I'm about tired, and I want to sit back and watch him get his just desserts.
Randy?
I'm with Laura Ingraham when she says that it's going to be, brushed to the side. And here's why. Obama, all he has to do is just blame one of the DNI guys that's dead. Just say, hey, I was fed this information and I just acted on it. What do you want me to do? You want me to say, no, this is not true, and just set it to the side? No, I acted in the best interest of the nation. So there you go. That's what's going to happen. They're already setting that narrative. They're setting that stage already. However, the perpetuation of it would fall back on Barack Obama. But once again, it goes back to what I said earlier. These folks are not going to get indicted. It's just going to be thrown out there, and then it's going to just go. Then we're just going to forget about it because it's too much time going on with it. Either you're going to charge them and indict them, or indict them, or you're not. James Comey is the fall guy, and he's accepting that he's the fall guy because he's still on the media circuit talking about it and talking about his new book and all this stuff. Nothing's going to happen to these folks, ladies and gentlemen. Get over it.
Binky?
Well, what comes to my mind is just like Randy was saying, nothing's going to happen. I've never heard the statute of limitations being brought up almost daily now.
Nope.
Fauci or Obama or whatever, this statute of limitation. But I'm just bringing this up as conversation here. What about all this allegations about Bill Cosby and Trump and Kavanaugh, all these interactions with women 30 and 40 years ago? Mm-hmm. What happened to the statute of limitations on that? Exactly. But when it comes to our government, that statute of limitations is priority one. Oh, you can go after him because of the statute of limitations.
Exactly. Spot on, Bink. Spot on. Yes.
Hey, you want to comment on that, Andre? Can you there?
He's frozen. I don't think he.
Well, Pastor, here's something that's just breaking news right now. Claiborne out of South Carolina, he's out of there. His whole district just been wiped off the face of the map.
Wow. and you know what? That when you say that, we're going to move into the second part of the show, and I'm going to take a quick break and bring these things up. And I'm going to play this clip, guys. And then if you want to take a quick break, then we're going to come back on the other side, and we're going to discuss the things that Malcolm X said over 60 years ago about what's happening with the Democratic Party and black people.
Mm-hmm. We don't need to be affiliated with nobody's party. We don't. Because Democrats haven't done a damn thing for us. And Republicans haven't done a damn thing for us. Right. We need to have our own independent black party. That's what we need. We need our own party. No more waiting for J.B. Crystal and the rest of them clowns to do anything. Now, I'm going to say this. We going to the polls. We going to the polls. Now listen to me closely. How many people out here suffer during this pandemic? Not a pandemic, but a pandemic. How many people suffer? All of them. Everybody. You still suffer. So what I'm saying is this. We, the people, need to get together. We're going to start this black political party. We're going to welcome others to come. It's about America right now. It's about black people. It's about 250 lives. It's about no economic development.
We built.
It's about areas
We built.
That's right. Taking out the dollar. That's what this is about.
Take our land back. We built it.
This our land.
We built
it. And I'm telling the alderman right now, he's here. Brother Alderman.
We built it.
Coming into the community, opening up businesses. We have to train our children.
We built
to open their own businesses. We do it our own self.
That's right. That's right.
That's what this is.
That's right.
We can't keep sitting around every time we go somewhere. There's no black dollar that stays here. But if black people own businesses, we reinvest into ourselves. We create a nation within a nation. That's right. We got to get our own schools because we can't let the JV Christians keep teaching our kids homosexuality.
That's right. That's right.
They teach homosexuality in school. So this is where we stop. This is what black people need to get off the bus that's going ahead.
Stop abusing the children.
We need to take our community back. We need to create our economic wealth.
It ain't too late for the brother.
And folks, that was me in 2022. We did a march to stop the crime here in Chicago. There was so many killings going on at that time. And all the street organizations, the GDs, the BDs, the Stones, the Vice Lord, all over the city of Chicago, we had a meeting. We said we will no longer kill other black men. And so after that meeting, we started to implement things to educate our children, to be able to get them to understand the history that we were trying to purvey to them. And after that, it dissipated, man. It seemed like Barack Obama and them started coming up with the critical race theory, saying that history doesn't matter and our children don't need to be taught where they came from. It was just an entire mess. Your thoughts, Randy?
You know, it is sad that you have a movement like that, and then, like you just said, it dissipated. It just goes away. You know, I remember when New Era Chicago, New Era Detroit, they tried to do the same thing, you know, back, what was that? Like, that was like early 2010s, you know, and I was like, okay, that's good that they're trying to, you know, do something. But here's the problem with not understanding the political apparatus. When you say we're going to start our own party, we're going to get away from the Democrats and Republicans, is that when you're trying to start your own party, you have to break through the infrastructure of the electoral system within itself. At the highest level of government, you got to say, hey, we are a new party, put us on the books. And then you build those chapters going down and everything across the states, Secretary of State's offices, and say, hey, put us on the ballot. You know, and you have candidates run on that. And that's the problem with the independent party. They are viable, but they don't work at it. And so you're stuck with this two-party system. You look at over in Europe, over in Britain, they got 16 parties. And this is why they have this is why they're so quick to dissolve government and have snap elections and everything else, because they have to work through all the issues and everything else. They have to build coalition parties to get anything done. I wish we had that in the United States, but we don't. And this is why we're in the mess that we're in. Yeah, it's a great system when it works well, but if you're not doing it right, this is the calamity that you have at your hands. So for these folks that's disenfranchised, you're making yourself disenfranchised by voting for the same people and the same party over and over again, and then you're sitting here crying that somebody else is doing something to you. It's your own people.
Lucretia, your thoughts?
It's your own people. The end. It's your own people.
It's your own people.
You're gonna sink or swim. It's like, we're gonna start our own businesses, but you're gonna go in that business and ask for a discount. We're gonna go ahead. We're gonna shop black, and then you're gonna go in there and beg, like, you know, little Pookie and Ray Ray, can I get a sip for $5 cents? We own this. We already tried this through history. It's called a crab in the bucket syndrome, and I'm sick of it. You know what? Go love and be who you want. And number 5, 7, and 15. You didn't build this damn nation. There was people that was here before you. Okay, then. So either you can't have it both ways. Either you hate America and want to go back to the motherland, but don't sit here and say, we built this. No, you didn't. No, we didn't. There was many more people that came before we did. And I'm sure you're going to have to go talk to the Native Americans who built more than we ever have. So I'm sick of that misnomer too. You hate the nation, but then you want to jump claim the nation. figure out which continent that you actually represent.
Dre, can you hear us, Dre?
I don't think. Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. I don't think that it's a bad thing that they want to start this movement, but like as Lucretia said, we've seen this before. And when we've separated and tried to build our own stuff, terrorism allowed all those things that were built to be broken down. And there was never any repayment to rebuild any of that stuff. So, as a result of that, we know that if we separate, that doesn't fall into line with even our Constitution and what the founding fathers actually wanted or warned about, because they warned about factions. And once you have all these different factions and small groups, you can't keep the fabric of the country together. So one of the things that we're going to find if we decide we're going to take longer strides politically and separate and do our own thing, we have to figure out how to get the media. We have to figure out how to get the media, because the Democrats have the legacy media. And then the Republican has the rest of the media. So this new media might be the vacuum that could get a few political parties seen nationally. But until we get a better system, like and Randy was saying, like we're going to be in a situation where we have this two-party system, and that's all there is.
Mr. Binky?
Well, yeah, being as I'm old, I grew up in the 60s, and I seen some, not a lot, but I seen some of the black community and how much difference it was then and now. And I agree, the black community should be building itself up. They have their own party. I don't have no problem with that whatsoever. But the problem is all communities, whether it's white, black, Hispanic, or whatever, are controlled by government. The states are telling you, you got to have a license for this, a permit for that. You can sell this, you can sell that, you know. And as Randy talked about, the electoral process. Well, we've got to fix the electoral process because our electoral process is not working the way it should.
Exactly.
48 out of 50 states award their electoral votes to the winner-take-all system. So your elector is a representative of you and your district, and they're supposed to speak for you. Well, people make the complaint, my vote don't count. And that is why, is because your elector is not allowed to cast their vote in your favor. It's casting it the way the state says. Whoever wins the popular wins all the electoral votes. So we've got to fix our electoral system, and then we've got to fix our government that's supposed to be protecting all of us and providing for us the necessities for us to be successful.
You know, guys, and like I said, I grew up in this time. And when I said that speech, and I want to explain to you clearly before I play this Malcolm X clip. See, what the black community has failed to realize is that when we didn't have the welfares and all the programs that the liberals brought to us, we were entrepreneurs. We owned everything in the community. I see you later, Crease. We owned everything in the community. We created the Black Wall Street. We created our own economic engine that went around America itself and made a huge difference in our communities. You know, the mindset of the Black Wall Street was that black people be self-sufficient. We didn't have welfare. We had black business owners who taught our children how to be entrepreneurs. We owned the banks. We owned the everything in the black community. And at the end of the day, what happened was it was the Dixiecrats, known as the Democrats this day, who went and created the Ku Klux Klan that destroyed the Black Wall Street because it was the most wealthiest community in the United States. And that wealth was being transferred to Rosewood, Florida, Chicago, and all the other states where black people, Harlem, especially Harlem. Harlem with I want to say Bumpy Johnson, who was a gangster, but yet he loved the black community. And this is what I'm saying. The problem we have today to the black community, the problem we have today is that we have black people who say they represent us and they do not love the black community. I watched, listen to Malcolm X. Malcolm X put his life on the line, not because he was looking for political gain or financial wealth. He did it because he loved black people. He loved us as a people, and he hated the atrocities that we faced. And at the same time, he was fighting a system of other black people. Malcolm X was killed by the Nation of Islam and Elijah Muhammad, okay, in conjunction with the FBI and all the other entities, the CIA, that knew that Malcolm was reaching black people to a point where they wanted to get back to the Black Wall Street. And Malcolm kept saying to black people, we got to be careful with Adam Clayton Powell and Dr. King, because they are not talking about self-sufficiency. They're saying, let us get together and be a part of the Democratic Party, who created the Ku Klux Klan, who destroyed the Black Wall Street, who created all the programs that Lyndon Johnson said, if you give the niggers welfare, then they'll be voting Democratic for the rest of their 200 years. Randy, your thoughts on while I cue this up?
You're absolutely right. And the most interesting part about what you just said there was, prior to welfare, the black community was self-sufficient. They was just as efficient as any other community. And here we are today. We have, a high dependency on the welfare system, not only by the black community, but also the white community and the Hispanic community. These are one of the three populations that are overly dependent on the welfare class, the welfare system, excuse me. And then you look at the other demographics. You have the Filipino community, you have the Asian community, you have the imported African community. They're now the new self-sufficient class who make way more money per capita than your baseline Americans who are overly dependent on the welfare system. And there's a problem with that. And the problem is that the welfare class is saying, hey, we don't have any intentions on becoming independent and self-sufficient anymore because the government is taking care of us. Why is the government taking care of us? Because the government owes us reparations. This is our form of reparations, and therefore we're just going to stay like this. We're going to stay destituted because, why not? You got this new imported class of people who are surviving and paying taxes and everything else to sustain our lifestyle. That's where we at right now. And a lot of economists see that and they say, this is not going to change no time soon. So to your point, the black community, as far as getting back to a period of self-sustainment, it's not going to happen. 200 years, like you said.
I want to play this clip, guys, and then I want you to respond to it.
Dave, real quick. I want to go on what Randy was saying about the black community. What I noticed when I was young, a kid, I could go into the black community and I could stand there and talk to a black child just like we were equal. And after the civil rights and all this, nothing but because of people like Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson and stuff, then that same person a few years earlier that I could stand and talk to, I'm fighting with because of what Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton and people like that were putting out. And then 25 years later, I'm talking about from 68 to 74 while I was in school. Prior to 68, I could talk to other black kids and we were equal. From 68 through my high school, we're fighting with each other.
Yes.
25 years later, I'm seeing the same people that we were fighting with in school, and we're standing there going, what the hell happened? Why was we so stupid? It was because of who we listened to and who we followed.
Dre, you want to respond to that before I play this clip?
I wanted to respond to what Randy was saying, because Randy makes a good point. because when we're talking about being dependent on welfare and the improvement of the Black community, I do think that there can be a little bit of despair in that area because, like, from the looks of it, it looks like the Black community would not be able to compute to be able to improve under these certain conditions. But if we keep on importing labor, if we keep bringing in all these immigrants, the situation is not going to get any better. So one of the things I think we should start doing is to stop paying people to do nothing. Because we paid people to do nothing, they keep doing nothing. They try to stay in that under that line of what they can actually make. So they're stuck in this particular position. But if they had to, survive to thrive like they had to do prior to this welfare system, then they would get creative. They would do some other things. They would learn. They could possibly get like a trade that would cause them to take more accountability. But right now we're paying people not to take accountability.
And that is what the Democrats knew, that it would befall Black people to get them off of being independent and being able to create the welfare system to where it removed the Black man out the family, because the government became the fathers of these children when mothers got on welfare, and then they had to put the fathers out, and that was the beginning of the end of the structure of the Black family. Let me play this what Malcolm said.
1 million Black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. They see that the whites are so evenly divided that every time they vote, the race is so close, they have to go back and count the votes all over again. And which means that any block, any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You can keep Johnson in Washington, D.C., or you can send him back to his Texas cotton patch. You're the one who sent Kennedy to Washington. You're the one who put the present Democratic administration in Washington, D.C. The whites were evenly divided. It was the fact that you threw 80% of your votes behind the Democrats that put the Democrats in the White House. When you see this, you can see that the Negro vote is the key factor. And despite the fact that you are in a position to be the determining factor, what do you get out of it? The Democrats have been in Washington, D.C. only because of the Negro vote. They've been down there 4 years. And all other legislation they wanted to bring up, they brought it up and gotten it out of the way, and now they bring up you. And now they bring up you. You put them first and they put you last. Because you're a chump. A political chump. In Washington, D.C., in the House of Representatives, there are 257 who are Democrats. Only 177 are Republicans. In the Senate, there are 67 Democrats. Only 33 are Republicans. The party that you bash controls 2/3 of the House of Representatives and the Senate, and still they can't keep their promise to you because you're a chump. Anytime you throw your weight behind a political party that controls 2/3 of the government, and that party can't keep the promise that it made to you during election time, and you are dumb enough to walk around continuing to identify yourself with that party, you're not only a chump, but you're a traitor to your race.
Okay, Randy, your thoughts?
Bullet to the ballot speech. Bullet or the ballot speech. I love that speech, because I regurgitate that stuff all the time. And I tell these Black Democrats around here, I'm like, let's analyze this for a second. Oh, the Republicans are racist. Okay, but what have the Democrat Party done for you?
Yes. Your thoughts, Randy? I mean, Andre.
Can you hear us, Dre?
Can you hear us, Dre?
I don't think I think his
Go
stuff is out.
ahead, Mr. Beaky. Your thoughts on what Malcolm said?
Well, what he's saying is that you're taking party over principle.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing what somebody else is doing without even looking into what that person stands for or what that party stands for.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's exactly what he's saying to people is, you know, you're sitting there, you're not looking into what you're voting for. You're just voting for it because somebody told you to do it.
Yep.
And that's, and what you're getting from that is what you're getting left behind with. They don't care about you. That's what he's saying. And that's what we're seeing today is people are voting for color, red or blue, and they're getting nothing because they stand for no principles. And that's why I'm such a jerk about saying I don't follow a party. I follow the Constitution. What the Constitution says, that's where I go. I don't care if you're blue party, if you're the red party. It's your principles that I follow.
Andre, can you hear us? Andre, can you hear us? Dre can't hear us, so I'm gonna put this other clip in, guys, and get you. Can you hear us, Andre?
I can't hear you now.
Keep talking. Keep talking. Let me put this clip in, and we'll see if we can get Dre back on. Because what I'm saying is this.
Pastor Larry, I can't hear you.
Well, just keep talking.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, fantastic. Well, from what now I can hear you guys. So essentially what we're seeing in the last video is that we cannot just do party politics for the sake of party politics because it's not benefiting anyone. And I like what Steve is doing because he's voting on the character of the people and how they navigate themselves utilizing the Constitution. I think that that's what everyone should do. And we should also look at the policies that affect us specifically and seeing if these politicians are delivering on those policies.
Well, you know, when he was, you see how what Malcolm is talking about is the same things that we're talking about, and this almost 60-something years later.
Yeah.
You know, we're in the same position that they were in then. So it only goes to show how Black people have not progressed. We have not moved to a place where we're comfortable with who we are. We're not at a place where our communities are being productive out of the whole situation to where we have our own. And that's what I be talking about, because I'm not saying that we separate, but what we have to do is separate psychologically and start creating our own wealth. We have to get rid of this "you owe me something" attitude, which has been portrayed by the Democratic Party, that we owe Black people something. That's why we gave you welfare, but yet you're never, ever going to prosper because you cannot move forward on what, $400 or $500 a month, food stamps, and all the other stuff that they was given at that time, and then call yourself beating the system. And so that's what happened with Black folks, is they was always talking about, man, I'm getting over on the government. They created all these programs for you. You know, they created programs of disability to say, well, if you put your drawers on your head and you come down here and convince the government that you crazy, you can get a crazy check. And I mean, that all of these, it's true. I've seen people actually do it.
Yeah, absolutely right.
I've seen people do it. And so all of these programs that was created by the Democratic Party, after he made this speech, the Democrats got much wiser, because what they did was they ensured that we elected Black leaders who they had already selected to get them in office, to take the heat off them. And now what do Black people have to say? You can't say the white man did this and the white man did that when we got Black elected officials like Maxine Waters and Brandon Johnson and all the rest of these House Negroes that are in place that's supposed to be looking out for the Black community and the welfare and the quality of life for the black community, and yet they do nothing but pontificate, take money, and talk shit. I'm going to play this other clip because it's important that black people see exactly what was happening then is happening right now. Every time that there's an election that come about, then you're going to hear from the Democrats. Once they get into office, they don't even be screwed. Check this out.
Crickets.
This is the year when all of the white politicians are going to come into the Negro community. You never see them until election time. You can't find them until election time. They're going to come in with false promises. And as they make these false promises, they're going to feed our frustrations. And this will only serve to make matters worse. I'm no politician. I'm not even a student of politics. I'm not a Republican, nor a Democrat, nor an American, and got sense enough to know it. I'm one of the 22 million black victims of the Democrats. One of the 22 million black victims of the Republicans, and one of the 22 million black victims of Americanism. And when I speak, I don't speak as a Democrat or a Republican, nor an American. I speak as a victim of America's so-called democracy. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. They see that the whites are so evenly divided that every time they vote, the race is so close they have to go back and count the votes all over again. And which means that any block, any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You can keep Johnson in Washington, D.C., or you can send him back to his Texas cotton patch. You're the one who sent Kennedy to Washington. You're the one who put the present Democratic administration in Washington, D.C. The whites were evenly divided. It was the fact that you threw 80% of your votes behind the Democrats that put the Democrats in the White House. When you see this, you can see that the Negro vote is the key factor. And despite the fact that you are in a position to be the determining factor, what do you get out of it? The Democrats have been in Washington, D.C. only because of the Negro vote. They've been down there 4 years. And all other legislation they wanted to bring up, they've brought it up and gotten it out of the way, and now they bring up you. And now they bring up you. You put them first and they put you last. Because you're a chump.
Your thoughts, Mr. Binky?
Yeah, well, he's speaking the truth. Democracy is hypocrisy. The threat to democracy is democracy, right? You can't say it any plainer. Democracy is a failed party, a failed system. And that's why our founders never brought up or even put the word democracy in any of their papers. They didn't want it. They knew it would fail. It would eat itself, and it would take with it the people. He's speaking every bit of that.
Go ahead, Dre.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to something that you said, is that people over time, they believe that they're owed something. And I actually did a history background of my family tree, and I haven't completed it yet, but one branch of that tree, I had to go back like 6 or 7 generations until it got to slavery. And in my mind, it was just after my grandmother that I had slavery in my family, but it went like 5 or 6 generations after her. So a lot of people are just thinking that the slavery was just like 2 months ago, but it's really not. It's really not. And we've we really have to take advantage of the time that we're in, because I found like a relative that was a bishop. I found another one that was a bellhop. I had generations of farmers. You know, they didn't own anything because a lot of them became sharecroppers. But, you know, the emphasis on slavery as being the be all end all of who we are as Black people is it's just not a fair assessment. We have to help people get past the fact that you're owed something. You're owed nothing. You're owed nothing. If you and I'm thinking of Sister Act right now. If you want to be somebody, if you want to go somewhere, you gotta wake up and pay attention. You gotta go get it yourself. And no one is telling them anymore that they have to go get it themselves. So I like what Malcolm X is saying here. He's making a good assessment of how our government programs has really handicapped a lot of different communities.
Yeah.
Randy, you want to respond to that before I play
Yes.
this clip?
Yeah. Real quick, 2 points. The first, Malcolm X is right. You find a voting block, which is the Black voting block, and they vote 90% and a 90% clip for one party. And you got every other demographic in America. Ladies and gentlemen, you can go look this up yourself. You ain't got to listen to me. You got every other demographic in America that are just about evenly split on how they vote. And so if it's a Black person that says, "Oh, you know what, I'm gonna vote Republican," "Oh, you coon, you race traitor," da 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 da, and it's like, well, what about these other groups that's voting opposite parties and everything else? What are they? Smart. And so we have a problem with that, and we got to stop that. And so I'm glad to see in this day and age that we're gradually becoming more independent minded when it comes to voting. But we still have a very astronomically high rate of voting for just one party. And the Democrats, they know this.
Yes.
And they see the Black community is starting to break from them, so they imported the illegal immigration, illegal immigrants to replace us as that new voting bloc for them. And we still don't see that. We still talking some, oh, we're gonna go and help restore, and fight against ICE and keep the illegals here. Why? But hey, I digress on that point. The second point I want to make real quick.
Go ahead, Randy.
To the fact that we have a diaspora in the United States. We have a diaspora of people that are coming in from all over the world. And we have our own diaspora within the United States, and that is the Black community. The Black community is in a political diaspora because they're going all around trying to figure out where they best can fit into whatever community that they find themselves in. And to that, we have to look at it and say, you know what, we can't keep talking about slavery. We can't keep talking. I hear people say, oh, Black America's been enslaved for 400 years. It's like, let's do the math here. Let's just say 1619 or 1620 was the start of American slavery, right? It ended in 1865. By some arguments, 1870. Fine. If you want to count the Native Americans that still held on to Black slaves after the emancipation, after all of that. So that's only 250 years. So you go after that, there's been a lot of Black progress in America since then. But we find ourselves wanting to have the collective experience of slavery. That's the new buzzword now. It's like, yeah, we're so past slavery now. We got to have the collective conscience. That's what it's called. And it's like, yeah, no, I don't, because I wasn't there. So how am I collectively be conscious of something that I wasn't a part of? Make sense.
You know what, Randy, and that's so true. And just like I said to the American people and patriots across this country, I call a spade a spade. And it is Black people doing other Black people now. The system sits behind these Black elected officials, and they're the ones who are continuing to carry out the mission of what the Democrats started by keeping black people separating and having us in different categories. Like you got the educated black, you got the Pookies and the Ray Rays, then you got black people who want to do this. But I'm gonna play this clip, guys, and I'm gonna get your thoughts on it, and we're gonna get out of here after this.
Blacks and niggas. Blacks are about maybe 20% of the black community. They're honest, they're hardworking, they care about their community, they care about themselves. They walk with respect for themselves, their community, and their family name. They're honest, hardworking people of good moral character. But like I said, they're only 20% of the black community. Because on the other side, you've got niggas, which are about 60% of the black community. 60% of the black community is filled with niggas, not blacks. You will find niggas before you find a respectable black person. And oftentimes, black people of good moral character, of good faith and good value, you know what they have to do? They have to hide because niggas are violent. Niggas are the first people to call them less than black, to attack their success, to bring them down and put them right back into the barrel. They are the majority. It is more popular to be a nigga than to be a black person of good character. That's a sad reality, and they represent about 60% of the black community. The third group, which represents about maybe 10% of the black community, is the financial and social elite of the black community, the modern-day house Negro. Now, the modern-day house Negro isn't doing the 1860s jive of, master, is we sick? They are the biggest defenders of nigga shit. They will defend all the bad aspects of the black community, mainly niggas and their behavior. They will sit in the courts and advocate for Pookie and Tyrone to get freed from jail. They'll go, instead of being lawyers that are going to uphold justice or become police officers that are going to maintain order in their community. These are the people encouraging, hey, don't do that. This is a system of white supremacy. You should engage in trying to be a productive member in society. Get your money off the government and sit back and be a fucking leech on society. Be a parasite. They encourage no growth because you know why? They profit off of nigger culture and nigger behavior. They make money. When niggas do dumb shit, they make money through music, in academia, through the jails. They are the ones keeping black people back at the top. Niggas, of course, are keeping black people back by, of course, when we allow these people to run around and do the nigger shit that they do. But those who are funding it, those who are sitting back and enabling it intellectually, from an intellectual standpoint, from a position of power and seniority, it's the modern day house Negro. These are your Barack Obamas, these are your Oprah Winfrey's, your Kamala Harris's, all these people in power. Democrat and Republican, doesn't matter. The Republicans won't do enough and are unrelatable to solve actual problems that black people have, and then the Democrats will sit back and relate to niggas and appease niggas because they're afraid that the niggas will attack them. They're afraid that they will lose money the moment that they turn away from nigga shit. I mean, look what we saw with Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj makes nigga music. She makes disgusting whore music for whores. And guess what? The moment she decided to go talk to Charlie Kirk's wife and go to the whole little event and everything, guess what? Niggas turned on her. They do this every time. And we see it each and every time. Mm-hmm. The final, the one we all want to say, niggers. Niggers represent about 10% of the black community. 10% of the black community. Now, this is something that is very comparable with the crime statistics in the country. Niggers are violent. They have no self-control. They are selfish. Far more selfish than niggas. Far more entitled than niggas. The thing is that they're willing to die. They're willing to fight aggressively over their behavior and defending their bullshit. They own nothing. They want nothing, really. Nothing long-term of actual success or something of good foundation. Niggas and niggers live for today, in the seconds, in the hours, not of tomorrow, not of next week, not of a decade forward. The problem with the modern-day house Negro is they also defend the nigger behavior. Either they don't call it out, or they sit back and they enable it in various different ways. Look at George Floyd. That's a prime example of a nigger, a disgusting parasite on the black community in America. And what did the entire country do? We burned down the entire country for this fucking parasite. We burned down the entire country for someone that was completely worthless, that had nothing of value that he was giving to society. Someone who was a roadblock to black people's success, someone who gave black people a poor name. And niggas, along with their masters, the modern day house Negro, decided they were going to defend this fucking piece of shit. They did it with Trayvon Martin. They did it with Michael Brown. They did it with all these people who are clearly not the best case, not the best representation of black people. But you know why they did it? It's because they're black. and because we can make money. If we keep niggas at the bottom, we keep niggas thinking this way, we keep niggas consuming, then we profit. Because niggas are the biggest consumers in America. Niggas will consume everything and then build nothing and then complain that nothing's been built. That's the mindset, that's the mentality of niggas in America. And hopefully we get to a point where we can dismantle this entire system, this entire culture within the black community. But as of right now, nigga culture is dominant. Nigga behavior is more acceptable, is more attractive. Being a nigga is more popular than anything, than actually being black and caring about where you live, who you are, and what you want. But in time, with action, and people like myself and those who watch, things will change.
All right, guys, your thoughts on this, Randy?
You know, this is a combination. He broke that down, and I love it. That's why I was sitting here laughing. He gave a combination of a speech given by Booker T. Washington in 1910, where there was always going to be a percentage of the black community that's going to, always have some kind of issue just to make money off of it. So he broke that part down, and then he went into talking about the Talented 10 by W.E.B. Du Bois.
Yes.
And so he brought it all together and laid it out for us in a modern day sense. For the ladies and gentlemen out there that's listening and watching today, go back and read those writings and listen to those speeches. The same with Malcolm X's piece. All of that is stuff that's been perpetually done throughout history, and we still sitting around too stupid to realize it. It's crazy to me. It's madness. It's madness, I tell you.
Mr. Binky, what's your thoughts?
It's great.
Well, he's talking about victimhood. Victimhood is something that you create all on your own. It's a combination of you not educating yourself. It's a combination of not creating an integrity or accountability for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Victimhood is something that you create and put upon yourself. And then what happens there is you being a victim, it bleeds over to other people around you. And then you're creating more victims because you're sitting there putting this scenario out to people. That's what I was getting, what he was saying. It's true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ms. Dre, what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I agreed with most of what he said. And I like the way that Randy linked it to the historical speeches. But I think that in our policies, and whether it's like crime policies or immigration policies, we've given up on a pocket of that group. And my question is, are we just going to continue to leave these people behind because of their behavior and their actions and replace them with people from all over the world? That might be a solution to some people, but I'm personally not satisfied with that solution, because I can see, if we even just look at the Biden administration and no other administration, how that over time or in a short window can overwhelm our system. And then you want to continue to complain about those people because they're not getting better. Well, I think that we sitting here have a responsibility to continue to develop that community and not give up on them. Because I think that for generations, those people have been given up on. And it's going to take a cultural revolution. It's going to take generations to fix it. But I do think that it can be fixed. And then we'll be talking about a way smaller percentage of the different types of groups that he mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what, man, after listening to this morning, and I wanted to play it last because I want black people to ask yourself, is this the truth? And it is the truth. What every word that he said was true, because it has been perpetuated that way. That divided house that he talked about. See, when he said about the 20% of black people that work, that is the remnants of the old school of the Black Wall Street type of mentality, who want to work hard, who want to be a part of this country in the American way. But we saw what happened with that. We saw that 60% of the niggas that didn't give a damn and the other percentage that didn't want nothing sit around all day. They spend their money on foolishness. They don't have any idea of structure because we live in it right now. What he said is so powerful is that if we look at where we at as black people, as the nation of black people, we are exactly where we are, exactly what he said. Because now all the Pookies and Ray Rays are 60%. The house Negroes that are in office, the Boule crowd, the educated people that don't consider themselves black and consider themselves Greek, the ones who are in legislation today that don't give a damn about the black community, but care about how they can make money off the black community. The Jesse Jacksons, the Al Sharpton, the NAACP, the Urban League, the Black Caucus, all these so-called elite Negroes have taken the place of what the government was doing to black people in the past.
Exploitation.
And so until black people, real black people, get together and understand the position that we're in, if we don't take back an educational system to train our children for the future, we're going to continue to get that 60% or 80% of niggers and niggas. Because that's what we're seeing today in the black community. We're seeing the elites making money off those who commit crimes, those who are lazy, those who all they want to do is complain and get that check and then be rich for a day and then be broke the next day and start complaining about this country and what they don't have. Randy, your last words. We got to get out of here.
Yeah, I would say, this is you're spot on, Pastor, as always, and this was a phenomenal discussion today. I truly appreciate it. I'm glad to have been a part of this. One thing I want to leave with the viewers today is that you get think about your situation, think about your kitchen table issues. Never mind what's going on outside in the other silos and with the parties and everything else. Look at what's in front of you today and say, you know what have I been doing the last few years that created this situation? What I mean by that is who you've been voting for, because who you voted for is what created this situation. And then you ask yourself, do I like this situation or do I not? And so I say that we got to change our approach and how we evaluate things. And I also leave you with this: pick up my book, Polarizing America, and I will catch you all next week sometime.
Mr. Binky, your last words.
Yeah, well, we've been talking a whole lot about things that are wrong, things that are affecting us, things that are dividing us. If we're going to make change, we got to be the change. Government's not going to do it.
Absolutely.
So if you want to make your life better and you want to make your neighbor's life better, you're going to be the one that's going to have to initiate this. So if you want change, be the change.
Thank you, Mr. Binky. Andre, what's your last words?
Yeah, I think Mr. Binky hit it right on the head. People need to be the change. And we need to think about the last video that we really saw and decide how we're going to fix this problem. Because I left that video feeling like really depressed because like he was spot on. He was right about the different groups and how it is just like a perpetual breakdown. So I'm urging and encouraging people to look at the policies, look at the communities, and figure out ways to fix the problem.
I want to thank you guys for showing up, and you're so correct, everybody. If you get time, I know the holiday weekend is coming up. Let's try to do a quick show Friday if we can. If not, brothers, we'll see each other next week. God bless you, and have a great weekend. We'll talk soon. Folks, I want to thank you for tuning into the show today, and I think that this show laid out the problem of Black America. You see, You have to have vision. And black leaders like Malcolm X, who were contending with the same problem that I myself is having to deal with. Over 60 years ago, Malcolm understood that the elite Negroes, that Dr. King and the Adam Clayton Powells and all the preachers and all those black leaders back then who wanted to sit at the white man's table and eat his food and call himself equal. But we can see after 60 years of suffering, in Hosea in the Bible, it said, my people will perish for the lack of knowledge. And we can see that over all of these years, black people have been separated. We've been put into categories, just like this young man said. And he derived what he said from speeches from E.D. Du Bois. All the other great leaders, the leaders that talked about the talented 10. And that separation is still going on today. To the American people and patriots across this country, the only way America is going to be great again is that we got to be one America. And that's why I'm supporting President Trump, is because he's saying, step up and take care of yourself. We need to get rid of all these programs, and we need to be putting entrepreneurship. Black people need to be creating their own economic engine. Black people need to have their own schools to teach our children about the history that black people have had. That's why I played the tape today of Malcolm, because I want my listeners to see that out of all of these years, especially black Americans, out of all of these years and trials and tribulations, that we're in the same place we were 60 years ago when we had the Boule people like Dr. King running the country, calling for marches that never meant nothing. We see it with the Al Sharptons, the Jesse Jacksons, the NAACP, the Urban League, all of these house Negroes who are in power right now that don't give a damn about the black community. So if America is to survive, if the black community is going to thrive again, we must take responsibility on who we are. We have to remove all of these house Negroes out of office. And we have to get people that have the passion, that have the love for black people, just like Malcolm X. God bless y'all. Y'all have a good Wednesday on Hump Day. Share it around. And remember, take the time and look at the man or woman in the mirror to bring change. God bless you.